On the morning of June 17, 1775, John Quincy Adams walked with his mother Abigail to an orchard atop Penn's Hill, the highest point near their home in Braintree. The air was filled with the roar and crash of artillery, for at dawn British forces had begun their cannonade of Bunker Hill, which stood at the crown of a peninsula immediately north of Boston. Abigail and her 4 children had been cowering at home. Her husband, John Adams, was 300 miles away, at the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. But so much turned on this long-awaited battle that Abigail felt she had to see it for herself. Perhaps she felt that her eldest son, then not quite 8 years old, should see for himself the mortal consequences of the fight his father and his fellow colonists had undertaken, or perhaps she was simply very frightened and needed company. It was a clear, hot day, and even from 10 miles away, Johnny, as his parents called him, could see the flash of cannon fire from British ships in the harbor, the smoke from the colonists' muskets, and the great wall of flame as the wooden houses and churches of Charlestown, at the very tip of the peninsula, burned beneath a hail of British incendiary shells. The noise was deafening, and the panorama of destruction must have been even more terrifying to the boy than to his mother. The battles of Lexington and Concord 2 months earlier had been skirmishes. Bunker Hill was the opening encounter of a war. The British lost almost 500 men in desperate charges straight up the hill and along its flank, but the militias mustered from Boston and the small towns nearby had neither the men nor the ammunition to resist for long, and ultimately fled back home over the narrow causeway of Charlestown. Word reached Braintree later that day that Joseph Warren, 33 years old, a fiery orator, a military leader, and an admired doctor, had died in the final charge. While others had fled, Warren had chosen to make a last stand amid the ruined fortifications. Warren was the Adams family physician. A moment so rich with elation, fear, reverence, and grief would have made a deep impression even on a boy far less precocious than John Quincy Adams. In a letter written 70 years later, he recalled that he had witnessed the tears of my mother and mingled them with my own at the fall of Warren, a dear friend of my father and a beloved physic to me. Warren was a friend, but he was also a hero, a brave man who had died defending the cause of American liberty. The same cause, as his mother never failed to remind him, his own father had gone to Philadelphia, under the most trying circumstances, to advance. Every night during these months his mother instructed him to repeat, along with the Lord's Prayer, an ode to martyred soldiers written by the British poet William Collins. How sleep the brave who sink to rest, by all their country's wishes blessed. In the letter, Adams wrote out all 12 lines of the ode and observed to his correspondent that even after all those years, he hadn't forgotten a word. John Quincy Adams understood as a very young boy that his life belonged not merely to himself, but to his country and its cause. He would never forget that a life properly lived required commitment to principle, sacrifice, and suffering.